Hi, my group is going to be talking about the NPS, which is the National Park Services. And so I'm going to be starting off with the history. So in 1872, the US Congress made Yellowstone America's first national park. And after Yellowstone was created, environmentalists, including John Muir, advocated for wilderness preservation throughout the West with the creation of several more national parks and monuments. In 1906, President Roosevelt signed the Antiquities Act, which gave presidents the authority to create national monuments to preserve areas of natural or historic interest on public lands. And on August 25th, 1916, President Wilson signed the act creating the NPS under the Department of Interior, also known as the Organic Act. And the NPS regulates federal areas, including national parks, monuments, and reservations. American industrialist Stephen Mather became the first head of the NPS. Mather introduced concessions and other basic necessities to the parks, and he also advocated for a highway system that would make national parks more accessible. An executive order in 1933 transferred 56 national monuments and military sites from the Forest Service and the War Department to the National Park Service and created a system that includes areas of historical as well as scenic and scientific importance. The National Park System now comprises more than 400 areas covering more than 84 million acres in 50 states. The District of Columbia, American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, Saipan, and the Virgin Islands. Today, more than 20,000 National Park Service employees care for America's national parks, and the House of Representatives Natural Resources Committee passed an act in 2017 that makes it harder to create new national monuments under the Antiquities Act and gives the presidents the authority to reduce the size of existing national monuments. Because of this, a movement known as Alt-NPS was formed from NPS employees and federal government officials, environmental scientists, and more people. The goal is to stand up for the NPS to help protect and preserve the environment for future generations to come.
The mission of the National Park Service is to protect, preserve, and manage the natural resources that the parks give us. Some ways they do this is they team up with volunteers, organizations to make sure trash is being picked up, trails are being preserved, and the park is overall in a good condition to let people use for educational and recreational purposes. The NPS wants people to use these resources, but they also want to make sure that all the park stays in the condition that it has been its whole life. One example of this is when the NPS had to figure out how to add parking to a lot of these parks due to the rise of visitors during COVID.
So there are a few people I could talk about when it comes to important people for the National Parks Traveler. And to start, I'm going to start off with Kurt Rapanashik, who is the president and CEO. In August of 2005, Kurt launched the National Parks Traveler, and as editor-in-chief, he has increased the site's viewership to 3 million views per year, as well as its relevancy and reputation for the organization and in the general public. He has also had his works published in such things like the Smithsonian, Forbes, Hemisphere, Snow Country, Sunset, the New York Times, and big other publications like that. Another big director for the organization is Rebecca Laston. She's a longtime traveler contributor who publishes popular how-to pieces shooting for the national parks. She was born 25 miles just right around the corner from Glacier National Park in Montana, and this helped her and her father instill their passion for photography of the area. A bunch of other people could be named for this the National Parks Traveler, but a few they named on their site were other editors such as Jennifer Bain, Scott Johnson, and Jennifer Bain is for the Canada editor, and Scott Johnson is for the senior editor. And these just kind of overall see a big encompass of what goes out there and what is published. And so they are recognized for the amount of work and effort that they've put forth on their own time and that they have to in and out of work all the time. So when it comes to important people, there's a ton that could be named, but those are just the main key people that keep this running for the organization.
As far as the National Park Service's actions go, they primarily manage and maintain several hundred national parks, monuments, historical sites, and other properties of the federal government. Some recent actions they have taken are Cuyahoga National Park. They plan to finalize a dam removal project in 2024 that will help restore the Cuyahoga River to a healthy condition. This will enable public access for fishing and other recreational activities. Next, as of 2018, NPS got Secretary Zink's support to reintroduce grizzly bears in the North Cascades system. This is an example of how NPS can restore landscapes and ecosystems. Unfortunately, not all of NPS's efforts work out. In 2020, the federal government gave up on this reintroduction. The Trump administration did not agree with this because of concerns with public safety, although there was overwhelming public support of the reintroduction. Lastly, the NPS attempts to protect our resources. For instance, at Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, NPS has constructed a plan to manage off-road vehicle and all-terrain vehicle use. This is a compromise between recreational opportunities and protection of natural and cultural resources in the park. As of 2021, there is a required permit to drive vehicles off-road, and certain areas of the park are restricted to vehicles. A couple of interesting facts about NPS. So there was 35 national monuments and parks originally in the service when it was created in 1916. However, today NPS has 140 national monuments and parks, and the Park Service's annual budget is $2.6 billion.
Due to its wide variety of responsibilities, the National Park Service is broken down into several organizational groups to better serve the public. The National Park Service is a bureau of the U.S. Department of the Interior and has more than 20,000 employees. These employees are led by the National Park Service Director. This director is supported by senior executives who manage national programs, policies, and budgets in the Washington, D.C. headquarters. There are also 7 regional directors responsible for national park management and program implementation. In addition, there are also different divisions within the organization, such as the Historic American Building Survey, the National Natural Landmarks, the Federal Lands to Parks, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the National Trail System. So each of these divisions have specific goals and priorities that drive their contribution to our land. Moving from organization into issues and controversies, although it appears that the National Park Service only benefits our society, they experience a large amount of resistance and controversy. For example, one of the biggest controversies is the water diversion draining in the Everglades National Park, and there are also many controversies in Yosemite Park. Some of the main controversies include overdevelopment, air pollution. Yosemite's Marsupial Grove was tunneled for the passage of vehicles, and this caused damage to the shallow root system and led the closure to the grove. So a lot of just controversies in how do we balance recreation and letting people use these resources, as well as preserving it for future generations.